Sherry Peel Jackson. She is an ex-IRS agent, CPA, fraud examiner. She was working for the IRS. She was on the fast track to success there. She was doing very well, had received numerous awards for all of the work she did, and she realized that there is no law and that the biggest fraud was the IRS.
I tried to be the best at whatever I did. So when I got to the IRS, I hit the ground running. My first year in 1988, I got the Fraud Award. It's a big Shaped in Georgia award for fraud. But I got numerous awards, and my biggest one is from the IRS commissioner himself. Back in 1995, it was Fred T. Goldberg. One of the things that I wanted to tip you off on as far as what the IRS does, before I get into the story, they have, well, they had, I don't know what they're doing now, but they had what's called a Market Segment Specialization Program, or MSSP. They would take different market segments, like ministers, and try to figure out how much money you were underreporting. Let's take beauticians, for example. I'm going to audit her beauty shop. She owns the shop and she has some people working there. Based on the assumption that the IRS has that people don't report all of their money, but they like to put all their expenses on there. So granted, all her expenses are on the tax return, and I figure out how many bottles of this and that she bought, I can calculate a dollar figure. So I'll tell Sophia, after it's all over and we're buddy-buddy, I just shock her and I say, well, guess what? It looks like, based on my calculations, that you really brought in $80,000, but you have $50 on the tax return. So here, you owe the IRS back $30,000. What would she do? She would sign off on it. I only had 2 cases in 7.5 years where somebody actually bucked at me. People are so afraid. The government and the media have gotten you guys so afraid of the IRS that you don't even buck them. Now, mind you, she might have left some money off. Maybe there was several times where she just didn't report the cash. And maybe that's why. Maybe she has no idea how much she, quote-unquote, underreported. Maybe that was it. But they always acquiesce. The Gap one, anybody own a laundromat, they have one that will calculate, based on your water bill, how many loads were washed at your laundromat. And the point to all of this is what they do to people, and people just acquiesce to it. When I quit the IRS in 1995, and after maybe a year of being Jim Cleaver and realizing that that was just not me, I hung my shingle, which in accounting terms or business terms is you start your own business. Now, you know that picture of Uncle Sam, the one that says Uncle Sam wants you? I used that same picture and I had it really big and it says, Uncle Sam wants your money, but I'm a former IRS agent. I'm going to show you how to get it back. You know, the people came running. And then these people start coming to me saying, I keep hearing that we're not supposed to pay tax. Or I keep hearing that the tax law is a fraud. And like I said, I was raised differently. I never would look at that person and say, you're a cuckoo. I wouldn't even think it. It was like, okay, you know, in this back burner back here, I would think to myself, okay, there's some people out there that actually think that the income tax doesn't apply to us, or it's a fraud, or it's being misapplied. But I didn't know anything about it because, remember, I'm rolling around with other businesses and whatnot. So one night in early June, one of my pastor clients called. It was night. It was about 9 o'clock at night. And she said, you know what? I think it was maybe a Wednesday night, after her Wednesday night service. She said, I've got this parishioner that just keeps bugging me about this income tax. She's talking about that we're not liable for the income tax, and she wants to talk to you. Can I give this lady your telephone number? And I said, okay. So maybe about 10 minutes later, this lady called me. She said, I have a question for you. Are we supposed to pay income tax or not? And I said, okay. Do you want the cuffed answer or do you want the real answer? She said, I want the real answer. I said, well, I really don't know. You know, even though I'm a former IRS agent, I haven't done the research, but I hear that there's a credible body of evidence out there that says that we don't owe income tax. I was okay. I mean, I took the information. I was sitting there listening like, okay. And, you know, I said, okay, this lady had a lot of information. I don't know where she got it from. So a few weeks later, she called me again and she said, Miss Jackson, remember that information I told you on the phone? It's in the USA Today. Pull it up on the internet. Okay, so I got the USA Today. It was July 7th, 2000. And it says, Dear We the People, most citizens are not required to file an income tax return. The 16th Amendment to the Constitution is a fraud. And if you file, you waive your Fifth Amendment rights. I said, okay, that's another stuff she was saying. Now, this is a lot of reading. But I kept reading because I was very interested, you know, being a CPA and into fraud and all that. I wanted to see what was going on. So here in the third column, it says no one has been able to collect the $50,000 reward offered by Bill Conklin. to anyone that can identify the section of the Internal Revenue Code that makes a typical worker liable for the income tax. I'm serious about winning is $50,000. Okay, so it's at my desk. Basically, I just shoved everything off my desk and got the codes out, the regulations out, the tax guide. I got on the internet to look at the Cornell University site, all these different things, and I started researching. And 2 weeks later, I said to myself, oh my goodness, we have a problem here. It doesn't look like I'm going to win this money. And I was sitting there at my desk thinking, this thing is a fraud. 2 weeks it took me to sit there and realize that. I didn't just look at the positive, I looked at the negative, I looked at the IRS site. All these things are going on. This thing is a fraud. Being a CPA and a former IRS agent, I sat there at the desk, I was by myself, and all these thoughts started going through my head. The first thought was, now, finally, open up the codes and regulations. Because, see, at the IRS, they trained us with these little guides. We didn't use the codes and regulations. We would get one of these, and you would have to read it, understand it, and pass this little test. And all these little guides that I got, I read them, and I made A's on all my tests. And I thought, and I guess the rest of the agents in training thought, that the information that was in here was the same that was in those thick codes and regulations. But it's not necessarily the same. The things that are in these training manuals are not necessarily the same thing as in the codes and regulations. I learned that in my studying. In the time that I was doing the research, I also learned about the Pocket Commission. And I'm going to let this go around the room, but y'all got to get it back. This is the outside that I purchased of the Pocket Commission that I had. And before I left, I had the sense of mind to make a copy. This is the little badge I used to flip out at people and say, give me your books and records. Give me your bank statements. Give me all your credit cards, And, people, okay, here. Even the counties, I go to the county, do it. I go just about anywhere and flip this little thing out and get whatever I want. There's a lot of power nuts out there doing that, guys. Y'all know it. Half of you already know about it. There's an enforcement pocket commission, and there's a non-enforcement pocket commission. And I started looking back at this thing. It has SER, Southeast Region. First of all, I'll read it. It has my picture up here, and it says, Sherry Jackson, whose signature and picture appear above, is duly commissioned as Internal Revenue Agent and has authority to perform all duties conferred upon such officers under all laws and regulations administered by the Internal Revenue Service, including the authority to investigate and require and receive information as to all matters relating to such laws and regulations. And it has SER and some other numbers and an A. And based on this Internal Revenue Manual, A means administrative. So I'm an administrative clerk out there on the front lines. And I'm an administrative clerk with a non-enforcement pocket commission. Okay, so I'm starting to get angry here. Starting to think about all that. I had to take bribes and get little tape recorders taped to my body and the little microphones on me and go in and take bribes from people. But, thinking about stuff like that, what they got me out here, and I'm thinking I really have authority. And this is administrative, non-enforcement pocket commission. That was one of the other things I thought about. And then I thought about, and I found out this is another issue, a levy versus a notice of levy. This is something that I didn't deal with a lot because I was an agent and I just assessed the tax. I wasn't a tax collector. I just assessed it. So this is a notice of levy, and someone said, "Hey, this is a notice of levy. This is what the banks get, or your job, or whatever." They said, "Look at the back of it." So I'm looking at the back of this notice of levy, and it says Section 6331, levy and distraint. And then it says B and C. And I'm thinking, it starts off with B? What happened to A? So I looked up A. And here's A. And it says, levy may be made upon the accrued salary or wages of any officer, employee, or elected official of the United States, the District of Columbia, or any agency or instrumentality of the United States or the District of Columbia by serving a notice of levy. I'm thinking, but that's not most people. That's not the person that works at AT&T or Bell South or Coca-Cola. That's not most people. Aren't people noticing that the A isn't on here? Aren't they curious about it? Why are they doing this? All this is going through my head during this period of time, then I'm realizing that there's a rat in the camp. That's what I call it. But this is the straw that broke the camel's back. The Federal Reserve is not federal. How many of you did not know before today that the Federal Reserve isn't federal? If you did not, don't be shy. If you didn't know before today that the Federal Reserve isn't federal, raise your hand. Most people don't know that. 9 out of 10 people that I asked off the street don't understand that the Federal Reserve is a non-auditable private banking cartel. They are collecting $6 million an hour in interest from the American people. $36 million an hour in interest from the American people. My children, my 2 children, were born $86,000 in debt based on the national debt. Now, why am I going to take away from those children to give to somebody that is going to be born in 2030? It's not going to happen. So that was my decision. It was very easy. You know, you think about stuff like fear. Oh, the IRS is going to get you. They're going to take your stuff. That's not important to me. Stuff's not important to me. My children are important to me. I'm one of those mothers that will roll up her sleeves with one leg and try to whoop you if you mess with my children. And I think that a lot of mothers are like that. So this is what my decision was. And I went on and started educating people. One of the things that people asked me once I've made this decision and started talking about it, how are we going to run the country without the income tax? I don't know how much Dan got into it, but the Grace Commission report that Ronald Reagan put out in 84, says that none of the money collected in income tax goes towards running the country. But the bottom line is it's not going towards running the country, so you patriotic people out there, you've been fooled. Beardsley Rummel, he was Federal Reserve Chairman back in 1946, did a speech before the American Bar Association. The title of his speech was Taxes for Revenue Are Obsolete. Within the body of this report, he says that the taxes, the income taxes for redistribution. What is redistribution of wealth? What is that? That's taking from me that I've worked hard for and giving it from somebody else to somebody else. Shouldn't I have the right to redistribute my wealth if I want to? Another question that they ask me is, how come I haven't heard this on TV or on the radio or in the newspaper? Well, sweetie, the simple answer to that is the same people who own the television stations and the newspapers and the radio stations are the same people who are involved with the Federal Reserve. And here is a little statement that says that it only requires 5% ownership to significantly influence the media. Rockefeller is one of the original shareholders of the Federal Reserve. As early as 1963, the House Banking Subcommittee reported that Rockefeller, through Chase Manhattan Bank, controlled 5.9% of the stock in CBS and the bank and gained interlocking directorates with ABC. I went all the way through high school, all the way through college, all the way through testing for the CPA, and all this Irish training and didn't hear about any of this. You think they want this information out here? For you guys to eat up and chew up and find out what's really going on? I don't think so. Now, another one. Why don't we just tell our elected officials about this? And to make a really long story short, the We the People Foundation, the same people that put out this ad, put together a hearing. And these 40 researchers were going to ask the IRS and the DOJ these questions, and we're going to have this big meeting in Washington called the Truth and Taxation Hearings, okay? So we got together with 537 questions. So we sent them the 537 questions so they could research and have the answers, and what did they do? They reneged on coming. They signed off on it, but they reneged on coming. So you all didn't get to hear the truth. We went on and had the hearings anyway, put it on CD, marched around Washington, giving it to all 535 congressmen and senators. Please look at this information. We got stupid responses back like, thank you for visiting our offices in Washington. The next time you come to Washington, please visit us again. They don't care. Your presidents don't care. Another one that they ask me, or they'll say something like, well, this just sounds like it's some kind of conspiracy theory. Y'all hear that a lot? Okay. Well, tell me this. What's the difference between a conspiracy and a strategy? Don't you understand that this is all by design? All this black, white stuff. You're white, I'm black. You know, you're a Democrat, I'm a Republican. You know, y'all heard of divide and conquer before, right? Why y'all letting them do it to us? While I'm sitting up here arguing with this man about what his great-great-great-granddaddy did to mine, there's this big old fence closing in around us. And while I'm sitting here wasting time and he's sitting here telling me why he doesn't know, we need to put our heads together and figure out how to get out of this fence that these people are building around us. Am I right? Yeah. That's what we got to be. Divide and conquer, we can't let that work anymore. It's been working all these years. Then we need to get together and understand. First of all, you need to understand what is going on with your money. You work hard. It's like we're a hamster on a wheel. This country started out with taxation without representation. Where are we now? How did we get back to where we started? We got lazy and comfortable. Get out your comfort zone. I never tell people to file a tax return. I never tell them not to file. I never tell people to pay taxes, and I never tell them not to pay. What I tell people is to do your own research, do your due diligence, and decide whether or not you're going to be a slave or get off the plantation. That's your choice. So in essence, you're wasting time. As long as you continue to feed the monster's going to grow. They're going to laugh in your faces. Any kind of cause that you have, anything that you're trying to do in your life concerning getting things back on track with our country, the way it's supposed to be, you're going to get laughed at because you continue to give them the money to do whatever it is they're doing to us. A lot of people don't care. A lot of people get the money taken out of their checks and they actually think they're getting, oh, I get back $3,000 every year. They don't take anything from me. I said, sweetie, look at your W-2. They took $14,000. They gave you back $3,000 of your own money. Oh. But the point is, if each of us understands where we are, who we are, and tries to do something about it, then we're going to get somewhere. This is a great country, but it's off track. And who's going to get it back on track? Yeah. Thank you. Thank you all.
That surround organs and the transplanting of organs. Check it out.
Did you know that there's like over 40 documented cases of someone getting an organ transplant and then taking on the freaking characteristics of the donor? So on the left-hand side, this is Terry Cottle, and he was married to his wife Cheryl. And unfortunately, he took his own life by shooting himself in the head. Sonny Graham was the man that received his heart as a transplant, and he wanted to contact Cheryl to tell her how grateful he was for, the sacrifice and all the pain and everything like that. And they actually started dating and they got married. Now the weird thing is, 12 years later, he took his life in the same way. And if you look online, there's like so many things where it's like personality changes following a heart transplant, changes in heart transplant recipients that parallel the personalities of their donor. So this is coined as cellular memory, and the whole idea is that memories are not only stored in the brain, but a psychosomatic network extending to the body, internal organs, even your skin. Now, this case that I brought up, could it be cellular memory? Sure. Could it also be maybe she drove the men to do this? Yes. But the fact that there are so many medical journals with published articles about personality changes that happen after a transplant, I think is really, really fascinating. So the question is, if something happens to me, anybody want my organs? Because do you want to deal with this personality or no?
Like, I know that there's probably like a scientific explanation behind it. Like your neural pathways are just open and it like memory or I don't know. I'm not a doctor. I'm not a scientist. I don't know. But it is so weird to me. Somebody could have like a love of classical music and then they pass away and then their heart gets transplanted or their brain gets transplanted or their liver gets transplanted, whatever. And then the donor or the person who accepted that donor organ now will have like a love of classical music. Or there's like multiple different cases or scenarios of this happening. That's just one example, but there's so many and it's so weird. It makes you stop and think and be like, what is going on? Creepy. Creepy, creepy, creepy.
Organ donations resulting
in Montana. Now, the interesting part about this is that the Sage Wall in Montana is located in the Boulder Batholith, right? Which is 75 million years old. That doesn't sound like the New World to me. The discovery of the Sage Wall is challenging the conventional timeline of human activity and architectural development in the region. Previously, such an advanced construction techniques were not believed to exist in North America during this period. But that's a lie. Watch this. This divine truth can also be backed up when we revisit ancient mystic Oriental Masonry. Its teaching, rules, laws, and present usages which govern the order at the present day by Dr. R. Swinburne Clymer, which states the following: the cradle of symbolism used in all Masonry is placed by many of the best authorities in that country which they believe was first inhabited, i.e. the plateau of Tartary, and from there transmitted to this generation by sages of India, Persia, Ethiopia, and Egypt. We are not indebted to either ancient Egypt for either religion or masonry, but to America. And we all know what masonry is. And we all know what a stonemason is, right? Watch this.
Deep in the remote mountainous wilderness of Montana in the United States, we find this remarkable structure known as the Sage Wall. This imposing megalithic wonder is composed of massive polygonal granite stone blocks, intricately stacked and aligned in a perfectly straight line that extends up to 275 feet in length, which is around 84 meters, although it's believed that it extends additionally underground. Its height reaches up to 25 feet or 8 meters, with the largest of the stone blocks weighing 91 tons. In fact, it is believed that the structure continues an additional 15 feet beneath the ground, making it around 40 feet tall if fully excavated. The wall's unique features, such as its straight lines and angular formations, set it apart from the natural geological formations commonly found in the region. The granite stone blocks appear as if they were cut, stacked, and pieced together like a puzzle, with each block interlocking with the next one. It's known that granite does not split into 90-degree consistent corners and angles, which made many researchers believe this could be some sort of prehistoric megalithic structure. Nestled on a mountainside, the wall was concealed by a dense canopy of fallen trees and thick foliage that had covered it for centuries, if not millennia. This natural camouflage made the wall nearly impossible to detect, especially since very few people had ever set foot in the area. The site of the Sage Wall was first discovered relatively recently. It came to light when the landowners decided to clear a portion of their property that had been heavily forested and covered with dense foliage for centuries. As they began clearing the fallen trees and thick underbrush on the side of the mountain, they stumbled upon the wall-like structure. This accidental discovery revealed the previously hidden and virtually unknown Sage Wall, prompting further investigation and interest from both the landowners and the scientific community. The wall's precise interlocking stones bore a striking resemblance to ancient polygonal masonry found in other parts of the world, such as the megalithic walls in Peru, Egypt, Turkey, Greece, Easter Island, Japan, and many other places around the globe. Does this mean that the Sage Wall of Montana is one of the many prehistoric megalithic sites destroyed thousands of years ago by an ancient cataclysm? Of course, most people dismiss the site as a natural formation. But how could this be a mere natural formation when it's clearly seen that the wall is perfectly straight-lined?
America, known to the mystics as Atlantis, when this ruin befell, was the seat of the greatest empire that ever existed. Somebody's been lying. Yo, somebody's been lying. But we're about
We talking about how they dancing ability. Warfaring our people. That means they were washing out the black blood and turned them to be lighter or upright white folks. Okay? We went through a genetic warfare here. They were importing people to have babies to wash out the dark skin. So I know a lot of Puerto Rican walking around, a lot of the Dominican walking around. I know this is a byproduct of invasion and genetic warfare. But I know deep down inside, those that know the truth, because not all of them know it. A lot of them are ignorant. A lot of them is racist. It's because now our ancestors is no longer dwell inside of them. But for those out there that look damn near white or pale, they know the truth. Those that know the truth know, yes, they will look like the invaders because this was a process they went through. But they know deep down inside how their ancestors, the true ancestor native, how the native ancestor looked like. So for them, those that know the truth, not going to disrespect me. They're not going to call me name because they know the truth. When they look at me, when they look at so-called African American, when they're looking at the West Indians, those they want to call the Caribbean, they will know all of these people are the one that maintain because they fought back. They didn't allow the assimilation happen. Some region was lesser than others, so we maintain our phenotype. That's why I give a special shout out to the South, because the South maintain and hold it down. We look like this because we didn't lose the war. We didn't get to the assimilation, okay? That's why we maintain our indigenous look. So when you're looking at me today, okay, when you're looking at all of us from here in the United States, from all over the Caribbean, those that reclassify as black people, we are the indigenous that survived the genetic warfare, that survived the invasion. So just know, when you look at yourself in the mirror, you should be proud of yourself because you represent the resistance of your genetic, of the ancestors. So this is how real indigenous people look like, okay? We maintain our indigenous phenotype. Know the difference, because this is what this channel is all about. This page is about truth. That's all it is. It ain't got nothing to do with this, ain't nothing to do with that. No, it's about truth. Okay? So what you see here, this is our ancestors that went to Europe. This is literally... Come and talk to me.
Everybody want to 100% that my dad is not in fact Native American at all. In fact, he is 100% white. And so am I, unfortunately. So I confronted my dad about this. He continued to lie, and I confronted Audrey about it. I emailed her and told him that he misrepresented himself. And her response back to me was, "Leave me out of your family drama." So then I find out that not only did my dad fake being Native and is in a documentary, and the documentary was on PBS, played for an entire month of November. So many, many, many folks saw it. Not only did my dad do that, but he also stole from the government $12.5 million by pretending to be Native American. He, in the documentary, says that he's Ho-Chunk Winnebago. Well, guess what? I'm just a chunky hoe. I'm sorry, you guys, I'm not gonna stop with that because it's just too good. It's just too true, you know? It's true. I am a chunky hoe. So... 100% that my dad...
The N-word was carved carved, etched with a box cutter into the bare skin of a colored member of the swim team, one of the only colored members, by someone who they thought was a friend, someone who they could trust.
The family statement confirms this and says it was etched across his chest. Last week, the college said plastic or ceramic tool was used to scratch the slur into the student's body.
I can't fathom as to why someone would go to that length, as to why a monster like this, and there's no more appropriate term to use, would do this to someone else. A person, a human being.
Rosario says he's from Kensington, Philadelphia,
AKA what a lot of people call Zombie Town because of the drug epidemic going on at the moment. But now I can say I probably felt more safe there than here with what just happened.
The college sharing a statement from them and the family. It says in part, a heinous act can serve as a transformative moment for Gettysburg College to live up to its ideals of diversity, inclusion, and justice. A criminal complaint has not been filed with the Gettysburg Police. The department says the victim has decided to let the college handle the matter.
The N-word was carved.
That's not even...
Man, I know you lying to me.
That is a fake picture right there.
Man, I know you lying to me.
All right, so hold up. So she's claiming that this is fake pictures, guys. You guys see this search bar up there, right? It says MayaBase.com. The thing is, with this site, this is a site ran by Justin Kerr, world-renowned rollout photographer of Mesoamerican artifacts. So for you to call this fake right off the break is very disingenuous of you. It tells me that you said this is fake because you see who the fuck is right there.
I study Mesoamerican culture. I can tell you what's fake and not fake.
Listen, I outdo you in Mesoamerican culture. I outdo you.
You are a Google scholar, so you don't...
There goes some more locks. And look at the hair too. Y'all see
Those
that?
are not genuine glyphs. Why do you keep posting these? Where are you getting them from?
This is another
Yeah, you're really pseudo. Like, you're not using real artifacts. You're just getting what you want. You're cherry picking.
It's pseudo when it don't fit y'all narrative. It's pseudo.
Listen, now I'm pseudo because I'm showing Mayan artifacts.
These are not wall drawings in the Mayans.
Maya-based database. An archive roll-up photograph created by Justin Kerr. He's world renowned, bro. Right? You know about Justin Kerr, right? So we're gonna pick up on him. And we're gonna go to the artifact that you said was from Africa. All right. Why does it say the site is in Honduras? Right? So this is, like I said, this is Justin Kerr's website, bro. This is the one that you said was an African artifact. Why the hell did you say this is an African artifact, by the way? If this was an African artifact, why would they be holding the Atlatl?
The Atlatl.
Where? Do you not see it? Hold on. That's not it. That don't look like it. Black staff and all holding pieces of Atlatl. Come on, bro. What are you talking about? Are you? Maybe you're not who you say you are. Maybe you are actually just a Mongolian because you can't tell who the Atlatl is. You can't tell what's the Atlatl is. All right.
Ooh,
there it goes.
Hit him across the head.
What you guys say, Obsidian?
If that's true, they look like they were delegates from another place, and they were documented by the Mayans.
Bro.
Did you see how they look?
No, he's a photographer.
Did you see how they look? They look like they were being submissive to a higher power.
Listen, the mother. You know what the mother civilization is, right? The mother.
Defend your people. Defend them. With all the truth that you know, defend your people. Even in their apparent wrong, I say, defend your people. take the white man's side. Never take the white man's side against your people. Never take his side. Defend
butts and a few other butt-licking, boot-licking, buck-dancing niggas. Somebody has to call these niggas out. But some of you are so connected to them, or you want something from them, or you want favor from them, or you want to be recognized by them. If you don't stand up for the liberation of our people, then to hell with any nigga. I don't care who he is or where he is, to hell with him if he won't stand up for the liberation of our people. But
everybody wanna know who's this and who.
So that's the reason why I said from that first video, Kamala Harris is freaking the mess out, because she didn't think Candace Owens was going to do a deep dive into this book and call out all of her lies. Let's keep it going.
That kind of obsessed with trying to find all of these documents pertaining to his life, because I realized like that's my ancestry, and I was having a ton of trouble mining his grandmother's information, because on each document her name was spelled differently, as well as other people in the family. And I was like, Granddad, why is everyone's name spelled differently depending on the document? Like, this is very confusing. Why is it sometimes spelled Liza versus Eliza versus like Lizbeth? That was his grandmother's name. And he explained to me that they didn't know how to read and write. So you forget this. You forget that you had a world the majority of people couldn't read and write, especially if you were not considered like a high-class person. My grandfather grew up on a sharecropping farm, and so what that meant was even if you had a name, if you couldn't read and write, you were going up to the register, whether it was for birth, whatever it was, and you were just telling somebody the name. You weren't saying like, hi, it's Candace, C-A-N-D-A-C-E. You're just saying Candace, and one person might spell it C-A-N-D-I-S, somebody might spell it C-A-N-D-I-C-E. If you do not know how to read and write, you don't recognize these discrepancies. So that actually, I thought, was a good thing in terms of like my idea that this woman could have potentially just been the help, maybe like on my scent. But I didn't want to be too convinced. Obviously, you know, I lean into the conspiracy mindset because we've been lied to so many times. But like I said, we did find that marriage certificate between Beryl and Lawford Newland, which was in July of 1944. And I want to be clear, guys, we know for a fact this is the correct Beryl. So we're not confused here and looking for more documentation when it comes to the birth or the marriage, because the correct parents are listed. You can see Patrick Finnegan is listed. And so we know that Beryl's parents are Iris Finnegan and Patrick Finnegan. So that is the correct parent, the correct marriage certificate. But we had no idea who Lawford Newland was. We had no idea that Beryl had allegedly been married after she birthed Donald Harris. That would be Kamala Harris's father. Thought that was like quite strange. She would have been 6 years old in 1944. Donald Harris was born in 1938. So this means that she got married to this guy, Lawford Newland, and she had a 6-year-old. So I thought that was quite strange. I couldn't find anything on Lawford Newland, but somebody on the team was able to determine that he arrived on a ship to New Orleans. He arrived in New Orleans, from Jamaica in May of 1943. So we're showing you here the ship manifest, and Lawford Newland is on the ship, and he is listed he's listed as a Negro. He's black. It says his marital status is single. That would be correct, because this would have been a trip the year before he got married to Beryl.
So that's the reason why I said from that first video, Kamala Harris is freaking the mess out, because she didn't think Candace Owens was going to do a deep dive into this book and call out all of her lies. Let's keep it going.
That kind of obsessed with trying.
So why don't we talk about how all of the JOOS Jewish-owned record labels are killing all the black rap artists. You don't see country music artists dying. You don't see rock and roll music artists dying. You don't see grunge music artists dying. And mind you, all the JOOS owns all the record labels. But the only community that gets sacrificed is the melanated community. And then the fact that y'all believe the bullshit, like when rap artists die, that it was a lone henchman or a street dude or a goon who took them out. Come on. It was a record label hit. Yeah, you know how like all the celebrities dies? Yeah, the studio that owns the celebrity. Okay.
It's already looking like the ports are definitely going on strike. And to her point, it's not just from Texas through Florida up to the up to the East Coast. There's ports internationally that are also involved, and we're also hearing that it might even spread all through the West Coast and up their side as well, as contract negotiations are nowhere near what is being asked for. A lot of these people who are longshoremen who work at the ports are stating we're going on strike for sure. We're also, this is affecting 45,000 people. And there's a lot of people in the comments saying, yeah, but we just went through this with COVID when they closed the ports down. We didn't have the inflation during that time that we have now. Imagine shortages and on top of that, inflation. It's gonna be a shit show. And I'm not trying to spread fear at all. I'm just trying to make more people aware so that you prepare for it. If you prepare for it, you have a better chance of not having to go through times where you don't have all the things that you need. It's definitely not the end of the world, but it's going to be an uncomfortable time where we will all eventually get through it and things will get back to normal, but it's something for us to be prepared for, and that's all I'm trying to do is make others aware.
We are losing Michigan, guys, and I am afraid and uncomfortable by
Hey, this is Fat Man Buddha, please say Buddha, and can we talk real quick about a certain topic that I've been trying to bring up and a certain movement that y'all are going to be heading to? which is Tartaria. So right now we're not getting any pushback from, from white people. But that's because they don't understand that we built these. And if you don't know what that is a star fort. And it's very important to the whole Tartarian mythology. They love Tartaria. Until they find out the Tartarians are you. Because once they figure out that we built this, they're gonna have to answer a whole lot of questions. What are they gonna start saying that the Tartarians had slaves? This is what I mean. This is exactly what I mean when I say that it doesn't make sense, man. All we did was build pyramids and nothing else. We built pyramids and lived in teepees and huts. We were doing things on a mathematical scale, but we couldn't do this. We couldn't do this. And if you, I'm gonna explain it later. All this right here. Look at this. Look what our people used to do. Look. You think that you in London somewhere. You're not even in London. You're in Philadelphia right now. Look at this. Look. And you can tell this is kind of Photoshop. The cars Photoshop, the people is Photoshop. Why would you have people on the bridge with the cars running? Come on now. Something happened, man. And then, of course, the Vanilla Skies. Look. But all we did was build pyramids, but we couldn't do nothing like this. All we did was build pyramids and we ain't do nothing like this. How, man? Look, that's supposed to be a lighthouse. This right here is supposed to be a lighthouse in the middle of the city. It's supposed to be like a ball gallery type of thing, if that makes sense. You know what I'm saying? But again, the Vanilla Skies. What was in the background that they are erasing? And then when you zoom in, you can see the Photoshop. Some of these people are painted in. Look.
Irish people or Italian people or some Slavic people, a lot of them, Irish people or Italian people or some Slavic people, a lot of them was not, they got freedom here in the continent. Remember, 1804 was the time where they all got free. They got free here. Did you hear me? They got free here. They never consider an Irish or an Italian to be a white person. You never wonder why they never consider at one point to call an Italian or Irish to be a white person. You never wonder why? Because these people were actually a part of the Imperium. They help us fight the enemy. They joined our side. These are the people that we pay the debt for them. These are the people that Boyer in 1776 paid the debt for them. So they always put an eye on these people. They never seen these people as trustworthy, because to them, that's why they call them N-word too. Because to them, they always remember these are the people that help us fight them. So they see them as enemy. That's why they after the Empire, they never get them. They never call them whitey until later. Until later. Because now they understand my enemy, my enemy friend is my friend, some shit like that. Just try to quote me on it. I don't remember how to put it together, but you know what I'm talking about. But these were the people that was actually out there with us. So that's why they never consider some of them to be one of these white groups of people until the time of Jim Crow, and they need all hands on deck. They need all foot soldiers, and now they gave an Irish a whitey status. They gave an Italian a whitey status. But way before the Empire, these people was not considered whitey to them. They considered these people black people to them, because they were out there with us, because we were the one that gave them what we call the pass, because they were known as deserters if they went back, because they was out there in the deserters if they went back, because they was out there in the war helping us also within the war. This is what they're not telling people. Facts. I know. I'm not, listen, I'm not saying.
Let's see what the Smithsonian says the first Americans look like. Resembling modern people of Africa, Australia, and the South Pacific. They also made a distinction between first Americans and Native Americans. Does she look racially similar to her? Let's see what the Smithsonian says the first Americans look like. Resembling modern people of Africa, Australia, and the South Pacific. They also made a distinction between first Americans and Native Americans. Does she look racially similar to her? Or her?
Who is Jean-Jacques Dessalines? And why is his name banished and outlawed for 100 years? Why is his legacy and bloodline kept a secret? Why so many different versions? Of stories about him. Why was the emperor of the world removed from history books? Let's dive deep to the river of truth. guided by the spirits that whispers their deepest secrets to the parallel reality of the mortals. One must know that history is manipulated, altered, politicized, and organized religious crimes. That the Imperium of Haiti is the biggest secret of humanity, the greatest shift of human history within this timeline, and the power that be, dedicating a lifetime of rewriting history to cover up the once true leader of the world. Who is Emperor Jacques I? Who is Issa Inga Yaya? Who is Jean-Jacques Dessalines? So many storylines, tales and fables about a messianic figure, shattered to glass pieces, while the next generation staring at the infinite version of a manipulated truth. In today's age, due to massive indoctrination and re-education within the school system, no one knows the exact date of birth of the emperor. It was forbidden to even mention his name by the church. They say he was born in 1758 West Africa. Some say Benin, Congo, and even Senegal. This agenda of relocated ancient historical heroes from history book is a prime focus in this continental American culture. Educational hitman like Charles Darwin relocates the old world to Africa. Thomas Madieu, an indentured servant descent, forge and create the biggest confusion and manipulation in Haitian history, causing an everlasting rift between the children of the Imperium. Till to this day, Melville Herkovitz, creating the African-American educational institutions that will automatically link any history or legacy of melanated indigenous American to Africa by the stroke of his pen. Walter Plecker introduced a reclassification of the Imperium children, weaponized the Census Bureau, and enforced the redistribution of status and birthrights. Harold Corlander dedicated a lifetime on Haitian spirituality with a sole purpose of relocating the indigenous tradition to Africa, all in the great conquest of buried, true history and the existence of the Empire of Haiti.
Look at this. I was reading this article that caught my attention, and it was very, very interesting. I find it to be a very, very interesting article. The NFL and FEMA have actually now signed a joint contract. Yes, I am going to say that one more time. The NFL and FEMA has signed a joint agreement. Let me explain what it is. It's a disaster. They're going to be using NFL Stadium now as a disaster center. So I was just reading the thing. I was like, oh, cool. This is cool for people, you know, helping people in this way. Especially the Raymond James Stadium is now a disaster center for hurricanes. Just to let you guys know, it will be used as a disaster center because Tampa is not that far from the coastline. I hope people are aware of this. Obviously, the local news will let them aware of this. But that wasn't the interesting thing. Now, most of the stadium in Florida are being used for that right now. And I get it. With Florida, come on, Florida is pretty much an island. So I look at all the stadium that they're using in Florida. I was like, wow, good. Now, what caught my attention is that when I look at the list of stadiums that are not in Florida, where they are located, I was like, okay, this is now where it get more interesting here, guys. It just happened, and I don't think it's a coincidence. All the other stadium that they're using are found on the fault line. Yes, I'm going to say that one more time. All the other stadiums that are now being used with FEMA, alongside FEMA, are found along all the fault lines. The New Madrid, especially places like New Jersey, New York, all those stadiums are now considered disaster center. Don't even mention California. Oh man. Basically all the football stadium in California are on the list. And it makes sense. It makes so much sense now. I knew, guys, I know what's going on. What I'm trying to say, folks, is that we're not the only one that know this. They know too. Look at what they're doing, folks. Look at the preparation that they're taking. If you're smart, you'll see it. And I'm not trying to insult people's intelligence. Wrong choice of word. If you are aware. If you are aware. That was wrong choice of word. If you are aware, you will see what they're doing. And everything that they're doing is lining up to everything that I've been saying. Something is getting ready to happen, folks. They are preparing themselves. FEMA is right now, all over the coast of Florida. Up and down the coast. I personally know someone, and I did a video a month ago about it. That opened up to me. Actually, a fan of one of my videos. I met him, believe it or not, I met this guy at a restaurant. He saw me and he's like, oh, wow. You know, I love your video, blah, blah, blah. I didn't know who this guy was. He approaches me, tell me what he does. He worked alongside FEMA and he said, this is what's going on. And I did a video on this. They said a disaster is coming to Florida and FEMA is preparing now in a way he have never seen before. The gentleman is in charge of management, I think it's management emergency service management. He's the head of that, and that's an office that work along with FEMA. When they have disaster, they go out and they help people. And he's telling me, yes, I am in the meeting right now with FEMA, and they're preparing for something. I have never seen this before. Something big is about to happen because I've never seen FEMA prepare like this before. A month ago when he told me, I did a video on it. And now you know, a month later, we're having a hurricane. And FEMA is up and down the coast. And all of a sudden now, it's in the news. FEMA did a contract with the NFL. Actually, at the end of this video, I will put a picture of the article so you can see it for yourself. They have a contract with the NFL. They're using NFL Stadium as a disaster center, disaster zone where people can go. I get using all the stadium in Florida. I get that. That wasn't really much of a red flag for me. It's when I start looking at the stadiums that they're using outside of Florida. All of them are on the New Madrid fault line. Every single one. And guess where the other ones are? Just make a simple guess. California. You think this is a coincidence? Nah. It's not. It's planned. Something is coming, folks. Get ready. Once again, thank you very much for always watching my video.
But I want to say say that I know that this is a challenging time for all Americans. We're enduring a great national trial, and we will prove that we can meet the moment. I want to assure the American people that we're doing everything we can each day to confront and ultimately defeat this horrible, invisible enemy. We're at war. In a true sense, we're at war, and we're
Now, despite mounting evidence of a real migrant surge and a real crisis at the border, strained resources, all the chaos we're witnessing, the Biden administration still steadfastly is refusing to acknowledge what is in fact reality, a full-blown crisis. As new documents obtained by Axios show how the Biden administration's resources at the border are already stretched to capacity, that the HHS shelter system is on track to hit 100% capacity this month alone. And this is just the beginning. Now, we have our own investigative reporter, Sarah Carter. She's live again at the border on the ground in Texas with the latest, even watching the apprehension of illegal immigrants earlier today. Sarah.
Yes, Sean, I've been here all day. I'm in the Rio Grande Valley sector in McAllen, Texas, actually just several miles from the Mexico border. And we ran into immigrants earlier today. Actually, the majority of them were young children here in this sector as they are flooding into the country. Sean, I can tell you this. There's roughly between 700 to 1,000 undocumented migrants, some of them unaccompanied minors, pouring into Texas daily. The Border Patrol agents in this sector are overwhelmed with the amount of people that are coming in. And remember, there's a crisis as well on the southern border with the drug cartels battling it out, as well as human traffickers. I think the hardest part today, Sean, was running into the young children. There were children as young as 4 years old in this group. Many of them were traveling by themselves without any adults. Some of them met up with adults on the journey to the United States. All of the children that I ran into were from Honduras. They had been traveling for approximately 3 months. Many of them had spent time on top of the trains. They talked about La Bestia. It's a train that runs through Mexico that the kids jump on top of and try to make their way to the U.S.-Mexico border. They told me horror stories about children that had fallen off the train, children that disappeared while they were on the road with them, that this is a real humanitarian crisis. But I thought what was more interesting was that the children actually knew President Biden. I asked them, do you know who the president of the United States is? They said, yes, of course, it's President Biden. And they misinterpreted his stop on deportations for 100 days as being an invitation to arrive to
There's about a week left to get supplies and prepare for this massive port strike that is going to be affecting the U.S. This contract affects 7 of the 10 busiest ports in the United States. This will cause massive supply chain issues and shortages, probably raising prices even more than what we saw during the C-19 in 2020, because inflation is already so high. We didn't have inflation on top of a crisis. So right now we have inflation and this huge crisis on top of it. So, definitely people need to prepare. It's going to be starting September 30th. 45,000 people are expected to go on strike, and it looks like it is inevitable. And keep in mind, this is all happening during the last quarter of the year, the busiest season in retail, where the ports are probably the busiest. So let's see how it's going to affect the end of the year, as if there wasn't enough going on already in the country with these elections.
Let's go ahead and get into this.
Gangs in Chicago are angry over the influx of migrants and criminals in their city. They say money that should be going to the African American community on the South Side is instead going to what they call non-citizens, and warn that turf wars between Chicago's gangs and groups like Venezuela's Tren de Aragua could see Chicago, quote, go up in flames. Photographer Matt McDermott and I traveled to Chicago's South Side to see what was happening for ourselves after we heard about a police report last month that the Tren de Aragua gang had taken over an office building there. We spoke to a number of young, hardcore gang members, as well as gang elders who have retired from the life, and just regular citizens who are very much part of the community. And they're all furious at the estimated $500 million that's reportedly been funneled toward new migrants in Chicago since 2022. They aren't happy either about what they say are Venezuelan criminal gangs that are leaving the shelters and spilling out into the South Side into abandoned buildings. I spoke to Tyrone Muhammad of Ex-Cons for Trump, who runs a street patrol and violence prevention program. He's gone straight since his days as an enforcer for the Gangster Disciples. And he said the situation is very tense on the South Side as turf battles between the local gangs and Venezuelan migrants heat up.
It is impossible to release gang members and criminals into our country through the borders and broken walls, and then infiltrate them in our community that's already impoverished, that's already broken, that's already disinvested. And when the black gangs, the leadership in the black gangs in Chicago get fed up with the illegalities and the criminal activity of these migrants or non-citizens, the city of Chicago is going to go up in smoke, it's going to go up in flame, and it's going to be nothing that the National Guard or our government can do about it when the bloodshed hit the streets, blacks against migrants.
Zach Massey did time in state prison with Tyrone Muhammad, although he's only 27. He's a leader on the streets and said he's disgusted by the money going to Venezuelan migrants at the expense, he says, of the African American community.
And I finally actually talked to him on the translator app, and he told me all the things that he got going on, how they help him get a car, apartment, clothes, link. So it's just I just be looking at it like they ain't got no Social Security number. Where they come from? He probably not even here legally.
Get right here, they get quick housing, quick funding, food, and getting cars with no license. They can't even read English and stuff like that. So they get all these perks when they get here, and we still here starving. So what we gonna do about it? Are y'all gonna listen to our cries?
Corey Rogers was a Blackstone gang member for years. He drove us around the South Side and showed us areas where he said Tren de Aragua and other criminal gangs are setting up shop and what he called showing the flag, which means brandishing their weapons in front of like a housing project.
The migrants that are coming, they're taking over every block right now in this area. Right now, you don't see them because they come out at night. They said they took this courtway over probably by last week. They said it was 100 Venezuelans standing out in the front right here.
Terry, is it an abandoned building? How do they just take it over?
They just, when you take over something, you just stand outside and that's called showing the flag.
What kind of guns?
Semi-automatics, anything you name, you're gonna see it on the street. These boys got so many big guns that if they're 150 pounds, the gun is bigger than them. I swear.
But they know how to handle it, right? They know it. Tell me about the fact that they're criminals, right? This is a criminal element. These aren't just a bunch of Venezuelans that walked over the border and used to be gardeners back home, right?
Right. No. And they come from the gangland. They come from rougher gangs than us.
Control works though, according to Democrats, right? According to Democrats, gun control works. Except when it doesn't, right? It doesn't. Because apparently they're smuggling guns into these migrant shelters, these facilities, via the food that comes in, all of the supplies that come in and stuff like that. They're smuggling weapons, they're smuggling drugs, they're running prostitution rings. I'm telling you, I mean, these liberal cities, they're going to turn into third world countries. That's what's going to happen. I mean, New York City has basically become Caracas at this point.
A Venezuelan gang has now reached New York City. Law enforcement officials are working to control the growth of Tren de Aragua, a gang that started at a Venezuelan prison, making its way to the United States and other countries. The NYPD says the gang is behind a string of store thefts targeting high-end items. Officers have also connected Tren de Aragua to ride-by robberies, which is when gang members ride around on scooters, snatching cell phones and expensive watches from people on the street. The NYPD chief of detectives says there were 415 scooter-related robberies at the beginning of June, but as of September 10th, that number has doubled. So far, the NYPD has identified 24 Tren de Aragua members out of the 14,000 known gang members in the city, but they believe the number of Tren de Aragua members is much higher. Police say they've been quick to blend in, and the gang is believed to recruit members arriving in the U.S. from inside the city's migrant shelters.
Residents and community leaders in Jackson Heights, Queens are once again sounding the alarm. They say crime of all kinds continues to take over the bustling Roosevelt Avenue business district.
Every corner is bad. I just witnessed a major drug deal, a wad of money right on the corner.
Those who live and work on or near the popular avenue say they are inundated with shoplifters and sidewalks with dozens of sex workers. A scene they say has gotten worse in the last few months.
There's a lot of good people, a lot of immigrants who like to work, you know, like you see in the restaurants like me and everybody. But a little new immigrants, they come here, you know, to rob people and a lot of prostitution.
Pix 11 News has exposed the illegal business of sex workers multiple times over the years, including when the NYPD broke down the doors to prostitution parlors in January of this year. But the cleanup efforts seem to have no impact.
24 hours a day, there's prostitution running wild here. There is clearly sex trafficking. We got rampant drug sales.
Former council member Hiram Montserrat and Ramon Ramirez, founder of the Let's Improve Roosevelt Avenue Coalition, will be presenting to local and state officials a 5-point plan to tackle the uptick in illegal activities.
At least 120 police officers. We need both the 110 and the 115 precinct to receive an additional 50 police officers each. And we need this avenue, Roosevelt Avenue, to be under the command of one police precinct.
Business owners and workers tell us they are losing money because they are constantly getting robbed by gang members and criminal organizations.
Sometimes the people go and take this and run away. That's happened like 6 or 7 times in this month.
Donovan Richards should bring the mayor here with Moya and see if they can do the walk that we expect our children to do every day.
Yeah, so I want people to understand, this is not just limited to these big Democrat cities. As you can see, Democrats, they want these illegals to be placed in small towns, okay? It's coming to small town America across the country. That is what's happening, right? What you see happen in Chicago, New York City, you see it happening in Springfield. I mean, I did a story about this happening out in Alabama, right? Where you have the illegals that are being imported into these cities. Yeah, it's going to be happening across the country. And nobody's city, nobody's neighborhood, okay? Nobody's small town is exempt from the impact of illegal immigration, the negative impact of illegal immigration. And that's what people got to understand. A lot of people think they're insulated. Oh, well, it's not going to affect me. It's not going to hurt me, right? This is not something that's going to impact me until it does, right? And then they'll be boo-hooing and crying and saying, oh, well, I can't believe this happened, but you voted Democrat, right? This is basically what the black citizens of Chicago went through, right? They all voted for Brandon Johnson, even though Brandon Johnson told them straight up, I love the illegals, right? I think we should be a sanctuary city. They didn't expect to actually have to deal with the consequences of it. And then they dealing with the consequences of it. they can't stand it, right? They boo-hoo, whine, and cry, justifiably, right? Justifiably. But I'm just saying that you should have known. You should have known that allowing unfettered illegal immigration, that being pro-open borders, that sanctuary cities was not a good thing. It should not require you to go through this in order to realize that, hey, this is not good for the country. So let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a Black conservative perspective. Peace.
Well, Vice President Harris refusing to clarify her stance on two controversial programs in place under the Biden-Harris administration that have allowed 1.3 million migrants to enter the U.S. Let's go live to Bill Melugin with more. You asked the campaign for some information yesterday, Bill.
Yeah, Dana, we didn't get much of an answer, but Republicans have been railing about these two controversial Biden administration programs, which have been allowing up to 80,000 migrants to come into the U.S. every single month. Those two programs, we've been talking about them, the CBP cell phone app, the CBP One cell phone app, and the CHNV Migrant Flights Parole Program, which combined together in less than 2 years have already allowed more than 1.3 million migrants into the U.S. through humanitarian parole grants. Now, in a phone call with me, former President Trump told me if he's elected, he will end both of those programs immediately. And on top of that, will revoke parole grants for any migrants who already came in via the program.
I gotta push the code in. Back up and I'll push it in. You think this sucker stay open more than that, wouldn't you?